Hi everyone, this is Sunit and welcome to the first Mind Body Universe live video. And for today's session, I'm dedicating this to the process of describing your emotions. And this was also discussed in my first Mind Body Universe newsletter. So if you haven't had a chance, do have a look at reading up on that. I will also share the link in this video afterwards. And in the recording that I did with introducing the process of defining and describing your emotions, I shared how I became aware of my relationship with emotions when facing anxiety, and how, for much of my life, I believed that, this emotion I was experiencing in my solar plexus was purely only anxiety. And so I work with it and try and deal with the emotion and what was going on in me, just from the starting point of believing it's anxiety. And, it would kind of always only feel like I'm scratching the surface of the emotion that's sitting there in the pit of my stomach and coming up time and time and time again. Until finally I started learning more about defining and describing emotions and getting to know emotions and actually spending some time with my emotions by, for example, when the anxiety would come up, I'd take a breath in and slow myself down and just start asking myself, but okay, what does this anxiety really feel like? What more is there to it? Is there possibly anything else that I'm actually also experiencing? What is coming up within me when this anxiety is here? What more is there if I look at, okay, the immediate things that's coming up consciously, but what else is there within and behind my thoughts, my emotions, what my body's going through? And I'd find memories, past experiences, and unresolved things inside myself that was kind of like hiding behind that anxiety. And what was part of that anxiousness within me was also fear, uncertainty, despair, sorrow, helplessness, hopelessness, and so much more. So, it's quite assisting and supporting to be able to define and describe your emotions, because you actually start opening up and expanding your awareness to realizing there can be much more to your emotions than meets the eye. And it's going to be quite futile trying to deal with, for example, anxiety and, doing the same thing over and over and over again when it's actually not really only anxiety that you're dealing with. It's the nervousness, fear, helplessness, powerlessness, sorrow of things that's deeper inside of you. So, as much as yes, it could be anxiety on the surface that I'm experiencing, there's actually a lot more attached to it that I need to work on, because that's what was pushing this anxiety that I was going through most of my life in the forefront the whole time. The deeper things that was going on in me that I didn't really get into or have a moment to face. So, what I'd also like to show everyone about this process of getting to know your emotions a lot better, because I eventually also asked myself, but, okay, what emotions do I really know? And what emotions can I really define in my body? And here, I kind of started off initially fear. I kind of know when I'm afraid. Anxious, there's anxiety. When I'm feeling petrified, uncertain, when there's doubt, nervousness, really basic things. And I could only, for example, say, okay, now I'm feeling nervous and or stressed. Oh, that was also a common one. Or I'm feeling kind of depressed. But that's the kind of the reach of where my awareness was. I could only name what I was experiencing, and that was it. And maybe a little bit of what was attached to it, but not really anything meaningful and deep and detailed in a way where I can really look at the problem that I'm facing and how to resolve it. Most of the time, I would, for example, look at just naming what I'm going through. Yeah, okay, now I'm feeling nervous and I kind of stay in that nervousness, or I'm feeling kind of depressed and that was my state. Like, my relationship with emotions and what I was going through was to the point of just being able to define it and then staying in it. So I empowered myself a substantial amount with being able to define and describe my emotions. And what I mean by definition is really getting into the detail of what this emotion consists of. Let me give you an example. Okay, let's say you have anxiety. So let's work with anxiety. Let's say that blob right there represents anxiety. Okay, and I'm sure we can also draw a few little chaotic movements there, because anxiety to me in my body feels like there's this electric chaos going on right there in my solar plexus. I can feel it in my back. It feels like pins and needles. My body goes tight and tense. So right now as well, I'd like everyone to have a look at memories or remembrances of what anxiety feels like for you in your solar plexus when you experience it or access it inside yourself. Um, Anxiety, you can also relate to a nervousness, uncertainty, not feeling sure of yourself. All those emotions are very similar or close to anxiety. All right. Now, in the past, I used to say, okay, I'm anxious. And then if we have a look at something that's immediately happening in our environment, let's say me doing this live video session, for example, there's a bit of anxiety. So that's your immediate, let's call it stimulant from your reality that happens. Then you've got all these conscious, thoughts that's happening here. Like, for example, taking me, it's the first time doing a live video session for my Mind Body Universe. Who's going to be there? What are the questions going to be? Will I be able to direct it effectively and efficiently to everyone's liking or preferences, or curiosities? So many different thoughts. So right now as well, I'd like everyone to have a look at what are the conscious thoughts that mainly trigger your anxiety, and look at one instance in your reality that usually triggers the thoughts that then triggers this anxiety experience. But now, what is interesting is that the anxiety, for example, will take a particular shape, will take a particular resonant experience or symbolism, if you will, based on what it is that you are consciously thinking about. I found, like, for me, emotions are especially when they are triggered by something that's immediately happening, I found are very much aligned with what you are thinking, in that moment. So it's like that anxiety is specially catered to resemble and represent what is going on inside your mind in that moment. So within this, the more you become aware of your thoughts, your emotions, and your body as well, you'll find that the movement of the energy and the effect of energy in the body is unique actually every single time. I also thought anxiety is anxiety. Doesn't matter when I'm experiencing it or towards what or towards whom. In fact, it's not so. If you, even for example, this week, take a look at anxiety and within yourself, and just start becoming more aware of every time you have that anxiety, breathe, slow yourself down, and really get in touch with the experience of the anxiety within your body, and just get to know it for a moment, describe it, define it. And you'll start seeing from the one day to the next, there are similarities from the perspective that you can call it anxiety, but it is also very, very unique and different in its intensity, its feel, its movement, its representation. It's like this unique creation every single time. And that is also because your thoughts will, to an extent, also be very different, but similar in the nature of them and how they can conjure up this emotional experience within you, right? But then that's the conscious level. Now, afterward, let's say after this live video session, what I would do with, let's say, with the anxiety that came up and all those experiences beforehand, is I take a moment with myself and just breathe and slow down and ask, okay, but why? Where did this come from? When did this start? What happened before the live video session that I didn't pay attention to, where other thought patterns or reaction patterns were actually coming up about this live video session that I wasn't so aware of in the moment. And then with going back, I'd see, okay, there was some memories of some past experiences where some mistakes were made and things were not 100% perfect. And so here's two very important points. I mentioned your mistakes, perfection, um, and some suggestions that were made, and I took it personally and took it as criticism, and doing my best to this time do everything as perfect as possible to fix everything that I've done before. So there's fixing as well. So mistakes, perfection, past experiences, memories, fixing, all these aspects are dimensions of me that are a current theme in my life that I'm busy working on, actually. So deeper behind all these thoughts and in this anxiety, there's also perfectionism. And what is attached to perfectionism is like this energy, this intensity of wanting to please and perform. So there's also performance, and with mistakes, there's fear. So in this anxiety, I can say there's anxiety, performance anxiety, fear, self-doubt, uncertainty. There's so much going on deeper. And then, tonight later, I can sit with myself, just have a look at those deeper patterns that emerged, and then also have a look at where did I miss them though? Because what is interesting sometimes when I hold an anxiety here, what I mean by hold an anxiety is access it while I'm breathing and slowing down and lying down. I immediately can access the deeper emotions. And then what will also pop up in your conscious mind is the deeper subconscious, unconscious memories that's contributing to the conscious thoughts and anxieties. So this is also to show everyone that the emotions, the thoughts and the experiences that you're going through in your everyday, day-to-day life, there's actually deeper things attached to it. So I'd like everyone to assist and support yourself for this week to have a look into the conscious thoughts that's coming up, that's triggering the emotion. Take, for example, anxiety. And then that night, or even if you have a moment later after the instance of the anxiety, take a breath and ask yourself and access that memory again. Remember the anxiety and the experience that you were going through and hold it inside yourself, and then ask yourself, okay, but why did I react that way? Is there anything deeper going on? If I were to describe the thoughts, the anxiety I accessed, and what happened before, or my relationship with a person, is there actually anything else going on there? I also sometimes catch myself where I'm in a relationship with someone and I communicate with them, and I can just hear in my sound and in an uncertainty coming up inside of me that there's something deeper going on here. And then when I look at the uncertainty and the thoughts, I would realize, okay, I was actually afraid to say something directly because of past memories of where when I was direct, it was taken the wrong way or perceived the incorrect way, and then I got reactions from it. So I had to deal with that fear of being direct. You see, and once you deal with actually the deeper things, your everyday life moments, reactions, and experiences towards people and whatever you're triggered by usually becomes so much more stable. You see, for most part, we are in our everyday lives reactive. And if I also have a look in the past, it was almost like I was in a constant reaction all of the time or in some sort of emotional state. And for most of us, that's become normal. That's how we've always lived. We do not know anything else or anything different. I mean, this process of becoming aware of your emotions and being able to define and describe them, to see what more is going on deeper, anyone and everyone can do. It's an ability we all have. We must just tap into it and learn how to do it. And it may sound foreign or difficult or challenging now, but it's just because you haven't tried it yet. Okay. So I'd like everyone to unconditionally give it a go this week. Just do this basic thing of looking at an intense emotion that gets triggered in you almost every day, day in and day out. And it may even be something that you've tried to work with for so long, but just feeling like this thing is coming back and coming back and coming back. Or just an emotion that's almost a constant theme in your everyday life. Just take a moment, breathe, slow down, hold it. It's like for a moment, embrace it and ask yourself some questions. We seldom also really ask ourselves questions within what we're experiencing while we're experiencing it. Or most of the time, we're so afraid of our emotions and what we're going through. I was also at such a stage in my life with emotions because I perceived, okay, they're negative, they're bad, or I just don't like them, or, it shows a weakness, that an emotion would come and I'd be like, eek, no emotion, get it in there, shove it in. I can't experience it. I'm okay. I am okay. I'm okay. Just keep it in there. Stay in there. So, you've got to also spend some time with your emotions and yourself with your emotions to get to know them, to communicate with yourself, to get to know yourself, your emotions, and your body. And for most part, everyone, there was an interesting thing that I also found within myself was that the truth came out within me that I did not want to be alone with my emotions because I was actually afraid to see what was in there because honestly, a part of me knew. And, I also realized that there was a part of me that just didn't want to go in there, that just didn't want to look, didn't want to ask the questions, didn't want to work with it because I never felt ready. I never felt prepared enough, always had excuses, reasons, justifications, always all these things that they're too big, they're too overwhelming. I'm not going to be good enough. I'm not going to be strong enough. All those things until eventually, as I said earlier, your life becomes this life of reaction the whole time. No wonder we're on a consciousness level, really evolving, consciousness evolving, really growing, because we're in these states the whole time, triggering deeper things that we're not dealing with because we just keep on working with the surface stuff and dealing with the surface stuff, and that's it. And this is eventually what I'd like everyone to start reaching and attaining in your life, which is where overall you're more stable. And yeah, you've got reactions in your everyday life, but they're a lot less. And you can work more on your self-creation, focusing on creating yourself into words, into living words, into a more confidence, awareness, stability, um, be getting to know yourself a bit better, focusing more on your self-creation and your self-work than being drowned and overwhelmed by your emotions. And these are only the surface things. So we really, within all of this, have to go deeper within ourselves to actually, interestingly enough, become more present in our everyday life. All right, everyone. So I'd like to give about 10 minutes for any questions anyone has in relation to your emotions, the body, defining and describing them, to assist and support with any practical suggestions that you can assist and support yourself with. Or, if you have a look at your relationship with emotions, what would you say is the most challenging one at the moment? Or where are you becoming more aware of your emotions in your body? You see, these are also the type of things that you can get to know in yourself and your body. It's all the types and kinds of questions that you can ask for yourself. Is, okay, what is this emotion exactly doing to my body? Where is it affecting my body? I mean, has anyone, if you really ask yourself this question, have I ever really spent 5 minutes just getting to know an emotion in my body unconditionally, just feeling it, sensing it, experiencing it? I mean, most of our days we just rush through and rush by, and there's so many things happening at once within us that we barely even spend time with the things that's actually affecting us in our bodies the most. I mean, I've also been looking at, anxiety and uncertainty, self doubt, being self conscious, all of that I lived with for many years. And it was interesting. There was a time where I was in my walking, my posture, I was walking like this with my arms outstretched, like literally like a like a bodybuilder with some big staunchy muscly arms. And so that was how I was walking. But inside of me, I was a storm of insecurities. And so it's like my entire body was trying to compensate for some sort of superiority or confidence. Like I didn't really walk so extensively, but my arms were slightly like little wings flapping on my sides. I was walking like this. Um, and so my body was trying to compensate for the extent of these polarized negative emotions inside of me, communicates what it is that it's going through, what symbol is it taking on. Just as the anxiety will take a symbol, a feel, a sensation, a vibration within your solar plexus, based on the specific thoughts that you're thinking and what triggered it, as well as everything else that's going on behind it, your body will also embody and represent what it is that you're going through. So, another way that you can practically approach this coming week is maybe having a page for each day and focusing only on one emotion. I mean, sometimes if you start this process and you start with too many emotions, you can get a bit overwhelmed. Start with one prominent, dominant emotion inside your mind, yourself, your body, that is even in me just speaking that right now, you can already, what comes up within you is an emotion. For me, it's always been anxiety, and I still sometimes feel it. It's like this resonance, presence, vibration right there in my solar plexus. It's lightened a hell of a lot throughout the years of my life, but it still sometimes rears its head. And, for me as well, it's never been about, okay, I have to completely master and be free of anxiety forevermore. Most of us try and deal with things inside of ourselves, energies, emotions, experiences, in such a way where you think, okay, I've got to get it done and get it done now, get it done and over with, I've got to master this, I've got to get over this, I've got to move on. But that's also an interesting misconception about your relationship with emotion. Emotion is there to guide you. Plus, you've still got quite a life to walk, and you don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. And every single day, we walk into new experiences, new moments, new things coming up in this head of ours. We have got an almost endless universe inside of ourselves we haven't yet tapped into. We haven't yet really gone into detail with and exploring and understanding. Never mind consciousness. We haven't really even gotten into our consciousness body relationship. So there's so much to learn within ourselves, and that learning process is ongoing. And emotions are one of the teachers of the deeper aspects and dimensions of ourselves. So even with the example I've used of experiencing anxiety, the moment, okay, I'm doing a live video session, going, okay, but I have done live video sessions before. I'm in front of the camera most of the time. All of that happens, but there's still moments of anxiety that do come up. And then I breathe with it, as I've said, slow down, look at the immediate conscious thoughts, work with it consciously to calm down and stabilize and gather myself as much as possible. And, just be me. But I will also later tonight be with myself, look at the thoughts and the deeper anxieties and go, okay, what else is there? I did look at it real time while I was speaking, which was about the perfection, the fear of making mistakes, the self-doubt, the always wanting to try and fix the past instead of just learning from past mistakes and doing my best the next time. So then I'll have a look at, okay, how to work with those better and more and become more aware of them in my everyday life. So in all of these practical steps, you get to know and start getting to know your innerverse. I mean, it's time that we start educating ourselves, learning about ourselves and from ourselves, and stop being afraid of our emotions. Learn from them. I mean, they're always there. They've always been there. It's almost like this resource of help has been right here with us and within us, but just because we didn't understand it, we haven't yet established a relationship with it or established who we are in relationship with our emotions. We haven't really explored it. And as I said to everyone, what's the goal I'd like everyone to reach and attain within yourself is on a daily basis, change your life around where you're becoming a creative self being, learning about yourself, exploring yourself, getting to know yourself. Going and becoming that rather than a constant, continuous, reactive individual towards everything and everyone in your everyday life. And also for everyone to start becoming aware that the surface thoughts and emotions that you're going through on a daily basis, there's actually deeper things going on. And these surface things are just going to get worse and worse and more intense, as everyone knows happens. If you go through an anxiety or something for a couple of days, it can eventually build and build and build and build, and then you can explode. And then we think, okay, the energy is released. It's gone now. I'm over it. No, it's not. It's going to cycle again, because what does energy do? It builds, it gathers, it accumulates. And it's got nowhere else to go, but eventually you live it out and act it out. And it consumes you and it possesses you and it overwhelms you. And that's how energy starts defining you and your life, instead of you defining and creating yourself and being more present here and aware in the decisions and the actions you make and take within thought, word, and deed. All right, everyone. So let's have a look at this question that's been asked, and with that, we will wrap up our first Mind, Body, Universe live video session. And the question is, I quote, what would you say about recurring emotions that keep popping up, which become almost an addiction? For example, fear and guilt. Does it mean that I haven't totally explored these emotions in me? That is yes and no, meaning that whenever I go through an intense emotional experience, again, I'm going to use anxiety. For many years in the beginning, okay, I just worked with it because I thought it was anxiety. And so I tried to deal with it within the starting point of, okay, this is anxiety. I have to work with anxiety. When all the while, it wasn't just anxiety. There was so much more going on. There were deep fears, insecurities, uncertainties, petrifications, not feeling like I know who I am, what to do, but always portraying as though everything is okay. So presenting a false me and feeling guilt about that. So what I would suggest, if there's, for example, in this question, fear and guilt, and constant and continuous, do this exercise for this week. And next week, when we, same time, same place, when we continue with exploring emotions and then feelings as well in the body, to give feedback, how and what else, what other emotions have you explored within that fear and guilt? So, it's not so much that you haven't explored the fear and guilt emotion as much as it is you may not have, as of yet, gone deeper into what else there could be and what else could be attached to it other than fear, other than guilt. What is really going on deeper? Like I, for example, with this anxiety, thought, okay, I'm feeling anxiety, but actually it was just this complete a mix of uncertainty and doubt and absolute petrification for making a fool of myself. And that was attached to a memory of someone where I've done something similar and they tell me, you better not disappoint me. So I had that voice in my head the whole time, even though it was years ago. I had that voice stuck in my head, do not disappoint me, do not disappoint me, even though it was totally unrelated to what I was doing at the moment. So I'd suggest, yes, go deeper into those, but at the same time, sometimes, as I said, the same anxiety will come up, the same fear, the same guilt that this individual is experiencing, because what's within and behind it is more subconscious, unconscious issues, memories, and experiences that you haven't dealt with. So every single time I have anxiety coming up in me over and over and over again, I do notice that it becomes less and less and less, because there's like, throughout our lives, we can say we had this pool in this cave, like our solar plexus is this cave. And throughout our lives, we've kind of dripped these emotions into this cave, and it's collected and collected and collected all these emotions over the years, all these varying different emotions in that, but initially a cave that now became this entire underwater cave. So, there's so much that we actually have to process in our lives now based on things that may have happened even years ago that we did not give a second thought, but it kind of conditioned and manifested and really attached itself in our physical bodies. I mean, in more of these live video sessions and in my videos in Mind Body Innerverse, I will be going into how memories collect in your body, conditions itself there, stays there, and can even crystallization of memories, consciousness, energies in the body, how it contributes to pains, discomfort, weaknesses, and then also, how and why different memories collect and different energies, emotional experiences collect and condition themselves and manifest and impact the body in different areas. Like my anxiety would sit in my kidneys, right there in my back, and it also over the years affected my lower back. So whenever I've also got a specific lower back pain, I know, okay, I've been participating in unconscious anxiety that I've been missing. So even now, as I'm standing here talking about the anxiety, my lower back is aching slightly a bit, and also my back, because it's how I stand when I'm in anxiety. I tend to pull my shoulders back more and tense my back, um, because the anxiety on the inside is so uncomfortable that my body is trying to stretch itself in such a way to release the anxiety. So those are the two things you always have to keep in mind. But how I work with it unconditionally is when like the fear and guilt in this individual's question comes up over and over and over again, just be with yourself, breathe, ask yourself questions, get to know it, feel it, sense it. Even I would ask the individual, ask the question, when last did you just feel the fear? Let it, breathe it through, embrace it, sense it in your body. Just for a moment, be with it. Say, hey, fear, what's up? How are you feeling? So it's asking yourself within and as your emotions, how are you feeling? What's going on? What are you doing in my body? Who are you? What are you? You'll find a lot of information is attached in emotions that we experience. Even in our everyday life, we think, meh, I'm just experiencing anxiety. Oh, I'm anxious about this. But it's not just anxiety. The specific design of anxiety that you're feeling is in relation to the specific thoughts that you're having. That's why if I, for example, now did not deal with this anxiety before this live video, and I just continued staying in it and obviously being a bit anxious in this video, and also afterward, and I went to sleep with it. This particular symbolism of the anxiety, the pattern it took on, the vibration, the design, everything would then sink into my body, would sink into my lower back, because anxiety is the one thing in my personal relationship in my life that I created with anxiety that tends to disempower me. It weakens me. It makes me less than who I am, because then I try and portray a version of myself that I'm not. And then it sits in my lower back and it rises up into my mid back. And when I, for example, go to the chiropractor once a month, I've always got the same spine alignments that are completely out because of the anxiety, the emotional pressure that manifests. So this is also why and how the particular emotions that you go through will manifest in particular areas in your body based on the relationship you created with it. So another good thing to do would be to be able to have a look at what relationship have you created with your emotions, to define and describe that too. Like, what does anxiety do to you? What does fear do to you? What does guilt to you? What does it do to you? For me, anxiety weakens me. Fear makes me feel like I am the most worthless, insecure. This is emotional fear, like worthless, emotional, disempowered individual. And then when you start really seeing the relationship you've created to these emotions, you've got to start asking yourself, but when am I going to start standing up and no more accepting and allowing this? But understanding the fear, working through this and finding ways to empower myself more, establish my worth, practice being more confident. All right, everyone. So we'll go to here for this video and for everyone to have a listen through from the beginning, and just to have a go through the practical steps, the practical basics of embracing your emotions, getting to know it, spend some time with it, getting to know what it does to your body. Have a look at what conscious thoughts come up in relation to the emotions, but also ask yourself, okay, but what else is there? What else is attached to this anxiety or the fear or the guilt or the uncertainty or the insecurity that is going on inside of me? And so this week, take a week of, I'm going to get to know me and my emotions and my body, and also start defining and describing, but what is my relationship with my emotions? Maybe we should all start there. Never really actually looked at that question in a lot of detail. What is my emotion really doing? My emotion. What is my experience? I suppose what is my emotion is also a good reference, because we do go through an emotional experience in our relationship with things that we have. And that's also like a double whammy, right? Because let's take anxiety disempowers me, but disempowerment, I'm also going into an emotional experience. So there's also a really nice mix of things going on that you can work with, so that every time I can now also take this with me into this week. Is every time I go through anxiety, I'll now go, hey, no. This anxiety disempowers you, girl. Breathe. Remember what empowers you is being yourself. Chill, be natural, possible. Just go out there, do it, and you'll be fine. You're with yourself. You got this. So, just help myself a little bit in emotions during to make a plan, decide not to allow such a relationship with emotion. Change it around for yourself and work through what you're experiencing. And as much as possible, don't suppress, don't let moments pass you by, and don't be afraid of your emotions. It's time to get to know them and so yourself. Everyone, thank you very much for joining, for listening, for being here. And for those who ask questions and I didn't get to them, I will see to either responding them through videos or text. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. And I'll see you in videos throughout the week. And I'll introduce the next week's live video session within the week to come. Hope to see you there. Bye bye.